Tonight, we're stepping into a different kind of story. Not the shiny legends full of glory, but the cold, heavy truth hidden beneath the armor. There are no dragons here, no perfect heroes, just duty, fear, wounds, and the quiet struggle, to survive an iron on the battlefield, amid broken sleep and slowly fading pride. If this kind of story brings you peace, then like the video, subscribe, but only if it truly calms your mind. And in the comments, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is right now. There's something comforting about falling asleep to the slow steps of shared history with strangers. So, dim the lights. Kindle that fire of imagination, just enough to warm the stone walls a little. Settle in. Let's begin with the birth story of a knight. It starts when you're 7 years old, not with a sword, but with goodbye. Your parents are proud, maybe even a bit relieved, as they send you off to serve in the household of some high-born lord. No letters, no keepsakes. Just a pat on the shoulder, a small bundle of clothes, and the weight of expectations settling on your young shoulders. No one asks if you're ready. Truth is, readiness doesn't matter. You are now a page. The castle looms before you. Under a grey sky, its stone towers reach toward the heavens. Its shadow promises greatness and suffering. The gates creak open. Inside, what awaits isn't a world of honor and glory, its sweeping floors, serving meals and surviving. Chivalry comes much later, after years of handing things over, carrying loads, cleaning horse manure, and dealing with lords who are just as grumpy. Your tasks never end. From dawn until deep into the night, you're running, delivering messages, scrubbing the hall, serving food. On lucky days, you get to polish armor until you realize that means scraping dried mud and horse dung off heavy iron boots. Blisters on your hands, aches in your back, and the nights, they barely notice you. You're not one of them yet. You're a servant. Still, training begins quietly. You're handed a wooden sword as casually as a broom. You spar with other boys, earning bruises on your arms and legs. You're taught to fall from horses without breaking your neck. You fall a lot. Some days, it feels like falling is the real lesson. No one praises a good fall, but they scold weakness. You quickly learn to swallow pain instead of showing it. Discipline is everything. Speak only when spoken to. Bow a little deeper before superiors. Never question an order, no matter how trivial or humiliating. Mistakes mean a slap on the back of the hand or a weak cleaning chamber pots. One boy forgets to remove his hat in front of the Lord's wife. He spends 2 days on his knees in the chapel, praying for humility. No one forgets after that. If your family is wealthy, a tutor might come teaching, reading, writing, a bit of Latin, though Latin mostly helps with church prayers and reading gravestones. Otherwise, you'll learn by imitation, by listening, by memorizing prayers. If the steward is kind, he might give you a scrap of parchment to copy letters with shaky hands. Literacy is a luxury. Muscle and obedience are what matter more. Yet you keep learning which spoon to use at table, even though most prefer fingers. How to stand for hours during feasts, holding hot platters of meat while lords discuss politics and complain about wine. How to vanish when tempers rise, and how to become completely invisible when drunken knights recount old battles. Every moment is a lesson in survival. Mornings start with Mass. The castle chapel is cold year-round. Kneeling on stone floors, you watch your breath fog as you fight sleep. Religion is mandatory, as important as swordplay. You're taught to fear hellfire, honor the church, confess regularly. Priests speak of God's purpose and holy duty. You nod, trying not to doze. Most of the time, you pray just to stay healthy. Medicine is scarce, recovery even more so. Meals are quick, bread, cheese, meat, if you're lucky. Vegetables are suspicious many. Believe raw ones bring disease. So it's salted meat and stale bread most days. Eat fast, the next task waits. On rare feast days, there might be roast pig or honeyed oatcakes. Those days linger in memory for years, like dreams seen through smoke. Evenings bring life to the hall. Minstrels sing of Arthur, Roland, dragon-slaying saints. You sit by the fire, drinking in every word. The songs are meant to inspire, but you're so tired you can't feel excitement. Your aching feet remind you more. Still, something stirs inside. Maybe a hope that one day someone will sing of you. You sleep wherever you can. In the servants' quarters, shoulder to shoulder with other boys on straw mattresses, smelling of sweat and mold. Some nights, you're woken late for arriving guests. You learn to rise without complaint, to work through exhaustion, to hide fatigue in your eyes. A night must be ready any time. It starts here. You're not alone. Other pages share the same hardships. Silent friendships form through glances, whispered complaints. Together, you learn the castle's rhythm. Which night is cruel, who might? Turn a blind eye if you steal a bit of stew. Who to trust, who to fear, which corner offers a moment of peace. There are laughs too. A cook's joke, tripping over a knight's dog, a stolen apple. You cling to these moments. They remind you there's life beyond duty, that joy can exist even here. Sometimes you glimpse the world beyond the walls, merchants with silk and spices, troops of performers, a highborn lady riding past with her entourage. It feels like another planet. You're not part of it yet, but maybe one day. Doubt creeps in sometimes. The tales of glory feel distant. Reality is far harsher. Is this pain, scolding, hunger truly the path to honor? But then you see a knight ride out in gleaming armor, banners flying in, your heart raises. One day, that could be me. Lessons in humility don't stop at bruises and hunger. You attend ceremonies too, though you're barely more than background. You watch nobles gather in clothes you'd never touch. Their glances and words remind you your place is somewhere between useful, an invisible dot when important guests arrive. The castle becomes a stage. Prepare guest rooms, polish silver, sweep the same corridor 3 times. If something goes wrong, it's the page's fault. And if a dog bites a bishop's leg, well, you learn quickly to look busy and stay out of trouble. On festival days, there's song, dance, plenty of wine, at least for the lords. You watch from the eddies, absorbing sights and sounds without seeming too eager. If someone slips you a bit of sweetmeat or cake, the weight feels lighter for a moment. But these small kindnesses don't erase reality. Your job is to serve, observe, and remember. Some who can read escape into books. The old steward has a few illuminated manuscripts in his room, leather-bound, heavy, guarded like the Lord's armory. If lucky, you sit by the fire at night listening to an old clerk read of Roman generals or saints enduring terrible suffering. These stories feed the mind when the body recovers from the day's labor. There are warnings too, whispered awe from old servants, tales of pages who never advanced, boys broken by pressure, sent home in shame, or vanishing without explanation. Sometimes you overhear things not meant for your ears. You quickly learn when to speak, when to nod, when to keep your head down. The castle is your forge. Every hour inside its walls hardens you, shapes you, makes you capable. You're not a knight, yet but no longer a child. You're something in between, wounded, disciplined, quietly determined. So at night, lying on straw staring at wooden beams, don't just think of past hardships. Think of tomorrow, the next step, the next challenge, the next one that, if God, your Lord and your body allow, will make you a knight one day. But for now, you're a page, and that's enough. At 14, the bonds of pagehood are formally cut, though without much warmth or softness. You're no longer a page, now you're a squire. The new title sounds like progress, but treats grow fewer, and bruises multiply. From polishing floors, you've risen to polishing armor. From handing goblets to helping men who might be on their deathbeds. Your new duties are personal, even intimate. You're paired with one knight, becoming his faithful shadow. Wherever he goes, you follow. If he rides to battle, you're right behind. If he falls, you rush into chaos to lift him, risking your own life. You're no longer the castle's child. You're a warrior's squire, and your days are shaped by his needs. Physical training intensifies tenfold. Riding a war horse, for instance, isn't the graceful dream you imagined. These beasts are massive, bred for battle and power, often grumpier than most nobles. Mounting is a small fight in itself. Controlling one is an ongoing negotiation. Your thighs ache, your spine jolts with every step. Nothing feels normal below the waist after a long ride. Sword training grows fiercer. Now you wield sharp blades not to kill, but sharp enough that if your opponent is fresher or less distracted, it's cause for worry. Daily spars lay a bruise upon bruise, new ones blooming before old heal. Every session is a lesson in humility. For every blow you land, you take 3. Your knight expects no mercy. He demands endurance, but perhaps the most exhausting part is caring for equipment. Armor, you soon learn, isn't just metal, it's a living system. Sweat, dirt, and somehow snails get into plate joints. You clean, polish, check every hinge and strap. If greaves pinch or a helmet visor jams in battle, it's your fault. If your knight dies because you missed a cracked buckle, you'd wish for death yourself. Weapons need daily sharpening. Lances tested, shields checked for cracks. Your knight's life and your reputation depend on your perfection. When all is right, no one thanks you. When wrong, everyone notices. Then come tournaments. What seemed romantic as a page, colourful festivals, trumpets, ladies cheering. Now you see blunt swords break bones. You saddle the horse, carry lances, wipe blood from your knight's face so he can smile for the crowd. If he wins, you collect the prize money. If he loses, you gather broken ribs and what's left of his dignity. When real war can stand, it does you march beside your knight through mud, rain, uncertainty. Campaigns are long, uncomfortable, food scarce, sleep scarcer. If you have armor, it chafes in places you didn't know had skin. You learn true exhaustion when limbs move only from habit. Battle isn't glorious. Screams, clashing metal, chaos of orders lost in noise. The push of bodies, smell of blood and sweat, sudden silence of dying men. These are your lessons. You learn fears to face is the one that sharpens your edge, and the one that paralyzes. You pray for the first. You don't fight yet, but you're not safe. If your knight falls from his horse, you reach him, lift him, drag him from danger. Imagine hauling a fully armored man, each part heavier than a holiday roast across muddy fields, while arrows rain down. It's not heroism, it's backbreaking. Work, with the reward usually being the chance to do it again tomorrow. If he's wounded, you tend his injuries. If captured, you negotiate or carry messages for ransom, sometimes dealing with people who want him to rot. You learn diplomacy not from tutors, but necessity. Words careful, posture humble, tone respectful. Even silence becomes a weapon. There are rare, true moments of pride. When your knight's horse nods as you lead it in camp, or after battle, bloodied but alive, he nods at you. These are fleeting, like sunlight through arrow slits, but they carry you forward. Back at the castle, work continues. You train younger pages in the same harsh lessons you've learnt. Serve at feasts, organize hunts, stand by your knight for important guests. Your sword is nicked, boots worn, gait like a man twice your age. But you're no longer a servant. You're seen, measured, tested. Priests still expect prayers. The Lord still demands loyalty. Your body craves rest it rarely gets, but there's no turning back. The only way is forward. You start thinking of your own coat of arms. What colors? What symbols? You dream of the dubbing, the sword touching your shoulder, rising no longer a proker. Squire, but a knight. It feels impossibly far. Inevitable too. Both hard days come. When you bury a fellow squire crushed under a warhorse, or pierced by a lance not blunt enough, no songs for squires, no poems for those who almost made it. You learn to bury grief deep, to keep working even as earth shifts underfoot. If lucky, your knight teaches more than war. How to think, read character, understand battlefields, lead men. If wise, he teaches when to speak and when to stay silent, which fights to choose, how to lose with dignity. Armor can't protect from these. They're just as vital. Winter brings new challenges. You learn a sword is only as good as the hand that still feels its hilt. Fingers crack in cold, armor icy each morning as you buckle it. Snow turns training grounds to frozen mud. Horses slip, so do you. No complaints. Weather, like war, doesn't care about your feelings. You hear talk from older squires, of glory, past rebellions, the king's call. You listen, absorb, weigh it. You've seen enough to know glory often looks like a grave. Still, if the call comes, you'd ride out tomorrow. Waiting is often worse than fighting. You write your first letter, awkward, laborious, formal, to your parents if they're still alive, with little said. You barely know where to send it. but writing feels necessary. Like tethering yourself, proving that beneath scars, sweat, and iron, a person remains. One night after a feast, your knight drunk on mead, and memory stills of his first campaign. Rain, hunger, the thrill of surviving a charge. Then he falls silent. Staring at the fire, he names 3 who didn't return. You say nothing. You listen and remember. You practice daily, often in secret. Mimic your knight's stance, footwork, grip. Before a strike. Copy everything, hoping imitation becomes instinct. Blood flows. You limp. You learn. Then one morning, without fanfare, your name is called. You'll ride with your knight not as spectator, but as his second. Sleep evades you. The night before, you don't need it. When you mount, you're ready. Not perfect, not fearless, but ready. Your story is still being written, but already etched in cold steel, road dust, calluses on your hands. You're no longer a boy, not fully a man, but close. You're a squire, and you're becoming, at 21 or thereabouts. Some are knighted, earlier, some later. The number matters less than this. Someone powerful has finally decided you're ready to kneel, swear oaths, kill and die in theory with a bit more ceremony. There's no sudden transformation. You don't wake with a deeper voice or hardened jaw. Yesterday's training aches linger, mud in boots, a scar on your shoulder that never fully heals. But your entire youth has crawled to word this moment, body scarred, pride wounded, hands toughened. By years of polishing, sharpening, carrying, serving, it all converges here on your knighting day. It begins with solitude. You're given a small, cold room to pray, reflect, fast through the night. No glamour, just stone walls, a candle, a thin, scratchy chapel blanket. You kneel on the floor, bones aching, stomach growling, trying not to think of kitchen warmth or the smell of roasting pig drifting up. This vigil purifies the soul, prepares you for a night's holy duties. You're told to ponder future responsibilities, protect the weak, serve your Lord, support the church. In reality, you spend much time wondering if anyone would notice a sip of water or sitting for 5 minutes. You're not alone in discomfort. Dozens of squires before you endured this vigil, some trembling with excitement, some pretending calm. You wonder which you are. You try recalling prayers, faith, proper posture, not thinking of rumor squires, vomiting from nerves, or fainting from kneeling. That would be unfortunate, memorable, but unfortunate. At dawn, you're led to the great hall. Transformed for the occasion, banners hung, candles flickering. Nobles, knights, priests in formal attire gather, whispering politely behind gloved hands. Silence falls as you enter. Your name is announced. You kneel. Your lord or a king, if your status allows, approaches, bearing a sword, symbol of service and power, perhaps not his own. Some lords keep a ceremonial one mirror bright, never used in battle. You try not to stare too closely, try not to shake. The sword touches your shoulders left, then right. The dubbing. In some traditions, a symbolic slap follows to remind of enduring physical and moral pain. A sharper slap than any blow, but the message is clear. A knight's duty is not to convert it to accept sacrifice. Then comes the oath. You speak solemnly loyalty to your lord, to God, to the ideals of chivalry. Protect the weak, defend women, speak truth, fight with honor. You say the words with as much gravity as you can muster, though inwardly you wonder how many knights still truly live by them. When the oath ends, you rise no longer a boy, no longer a servant, but a knight. The change is subtle, internal, yet profound. Those who barely noticed you yesterday now nod in solemn approval. Comrades clap your shoulder. Your lord offers a tight-lipped smile, the noble equivalent of a standing ovation, then perhaps a feast, depending on the lord's wealth or the court's mood. If there is one, you sit higher at the table, drink from better cups, and hear congratulations from the very nobles you've served wine to yesterday. Some are knighted on the battlefield, the ceremony brief, amid chaos. Others get the full pomp. Either way, the weight of the title settles on your shoulders, heavy as chainmail. Knighthood, it turns out, is not a destination, it's a door. The world doesn't pause for you to enjoy your new status. Your duties increase at once. Now you lead men, not follow. You decide, not just obey. You charge in front, not behind. The sword that knighted you is now yours to wield. No one second guesses your choices anymore. Mistakes will be public and costly. Accountability comes anew. A knight's word binds. Your signature carries weight. Absence at court is noted. Presence at church is assumed. Drink too much or speak loosely and it falls not just on you, but on your house, your banner, your lord. One wrong word can break alliances. A drunken quarrel can undo months of diplomacy. In short, from the moment the sword touches your shoulder, your margin for error shrinks dramatically. Responsibilities spread beyond the battlefield. If your lord grants land, you must manage it wisely. Collect taxes, settle peasants' disputes, maintain roads, ensure good harvests. Knights are seen as warriors, but in truth, they're administrators, enforcers, landlords. Your sword may stay sheathed for months, but your seal is pressed into wax almost daily. Now you have your own squire. It doesn't feel as amusing to you as it might seem. He's young, uncertain, eager to please. You teach him to polish armor properly, saddle a horse without pinching its back, pour wine without spilling. Correct gently at first, then firmly. He reminds you of yourself. It humbles you and amuses you a little how far you've come, and how far you still have to go. There's the coat of arms too. If you didn't have one before, you choose now. Colors, symbols, family, motto all matter. They'll identify you on battlefield and in court. Speak for you before you do. A red lion rampant on gold says one thing. A black cross on white says another. Choose wisely or pay a herald to help. New armor is fitted to your body. If your lord is generous, or your family still has money. Full plate is expensive, each piece custom. Greaves for legs, gauntlets for hands, cuirass for chest. You stand while smiths measure and hammer, there. Inky fingers leaving marks on your skin. The weight is impressive. Walking in it feels like learning anew, but inside you feel safer as if the metal protects not just body, but name. You ride formally through the village for the first time, not as a servant trailing behind, but at the head of the group. Children run alongside the road. Old men stiffly bow in respect. A woman tosses flowers. You try not to grin too widely. Peasants don't exactly cheer, but they watch. And in the medieval world, attention is a kind of applause. That night, in the solitude of your room, you slowly remove each piece of armor. Set the sword aside carefully. Look at your reflection in the polished plates, and try to see what others saw today. A knight, protector, leader. You don't fully believe it yet, but you will. Nothing changes overnight. You still train daily. Rise at dawn for prayers. Limp after long rides. Wince when a sword catches your elbow. But now your name carries more weight. You're consulted, not just commanded. Young squires look at you with wide ease, wonder, fear, perhaps both. War will come. Again, you know it. And when it does, your place will be in front. No more standing behind shield walls. No more waiting for orders. You'll lead the charge, roar into the din, and cross the field first. If fortune favors, you'll return with honor. If not, your coat of arms will be carried back without you. That's the price of glory. That's the weight of the oath. Yet you're proud, not for the status, but for surviving. Enduring the long years, the cold vigils, humiliation, training. Fiano, the title fits like a second skin. You're a knight, and your true service has only just begun. Becoming a knight doesn't suddenly make you invincible. You're handed 60 pounds of iron and told to mount a horse. The first real lesson of knighthood isn't how to fight, it's how to walk in your own armor, breathe in it, and not fall over. It starts with chain mail, a mesh of interlinked rings hanging from shoulders like an iron tunic. Not as heavy as it looks, but it clings, pulls at limbs, and soaks up every drop of sweat. Beneath, a padded gambescent, quilted linen stuffed with wool or rags. It stinks after one skirmish, worse after a week. But it keeps the mail from chafing skin to blood. As warfare evolves, so does your gear. Plate replaces mail. First just a breastplate and greaves, then pauldrons for shoulders, vambresses for arms, sabatons for feet, articulated joints with rivets. Each addition for protection, if it pinches, almost always. Eventually, you're encased head to toe in metal, more like being folded into a walking bell than dressing. The helmet is the worst. Sounds twist inside, vision narrowed to slits, your own breath fogging up. It saves your head in battle, gives you headaches outside it. Some have visors that lift for breathing and spitting, though it makes the face an easy target. Everything in armor is compromise. Movement isn't impossible. Surprisingly, you can run, sit, mount a horse, even roll if well trained. But everything costs effort. You're not agile, you're deliberate, and quickly learn to conserve motion like spending your last coins. Because if your opponent wears only boiled leather, he'll dance around you while you lumber like a moving statue of St. George. And maintenance. Every piece cleaned, oiled, inspected. One rusted rivet can jam a joint. A dented breastplate might crumple on the second blow. Your squire becomes a smith's apprentice overnight scrubbing, hammering into the evening. Forget a strap or tie a quiz wrong, and you'll feel the pain immediately. As for weapons, the sword is your lifelong companion, but not the only one. It's no slender rapier of modern fantasy broad. Heavy blade for chopping, not fencing. Keep it sharp, but not razor thin it. Endures blows better. It hangs at your side, but draw only when needed. Sword is both symbol and tool, an extension of will in your hand. Then the lance. A knight without a lance is a fish without gills, useless in open battle otherwise. No finesser, 10-foot pointed pole, tucked under arm to ram whoever's in front. Poor speed turns it deadly, but clumsy, easy to miss, and when broken, good only for poking campfires. The mace is a brutal friend. Short, thick, blunted. No technique, just an iron knob on a stick. 2 cave helmets shatter ribs. When sharp weapons glance off armor, the mace makes its point clear. Axes are similar, less common among knights favored by mercenaries or northern men. But up close, it can hook shields, split helmets, unhorse. Not considered gentlemanly, but neither is war. The shield serves both attack and defense. You carry one usually kite-shaped or heater Stein's lung on back or strapped to arm. Your coat of arms blazes there. A flash of color in mud and smoke. Learn to punch with it, block, absorb force. A good shield saves lives. A bad one becomes a coffin lid that's sieged weapons or another world. Catapults, trebuchets, battering rams work for engineers and common troops. You watch more than wield and less, very unlucky, but learn to fear them. No armor stops a stone shot in battle. Your gear is both guardian and prison. In the charge, lance couched, shield raised, visor down, you thunder forward. The world narrows to noise and blur. Impact sudden, total. You strike or miss, fall or not. If you fall, pray the next wave doesn't trample you before you rise. After the charge, if still upright, comes the melee. Sword drawn, man against man. No beauty, gasping, blood, chaotic clash of metal. Swing, parry, pray. Aim not for heroism for joints. Armpit, back of knee, visor slit, weak spots. Every knight has them. If you don't find theirs, they'll find yours. Later, if you survive, you turn to the knight's less sung task repairer. Remove armor piece by piece. Each dent and scratch tells its small story. Note broken rivets, torn straps, fix them. Clean sword, inspect oil, sharpen lost edges. Never sleep with gear unfit next time. Life may depend on it. You learn fine differences between good steel and poor. No smiths by name. Sword, balance, shield weight, helmet, brow line, all second nature. Grow exacting over details that seem trivial. Leather in gauntlets, weight distribution in new axe, latch on visor. Some personalized gear engraving on pommel, crest on breastplate, gilding. If money and pride allow, you might too. But beneath, the grim truth remains. Armor isn't clothing. It's delay against the grave. Downsides exist. Armor is costly. Gains from war or tournament often vanish into repairs and replacements. And heat. Full plate in summer means walking inside a forge, especially under noon sun. Buckets of sweat. Fainting, if careless, flies drawn like to a moving roast. Still, you learn to trust the gearlight's second skin. Tested in arrow storms, shuddered under mace blows to ribs, and knew it worked. It protects, yes, but changes you too. You walk taller. In it, People step aside. Children point. Common folk bow. But you, Nyan, doesn't make you invincible. Just postpones the inevitable a bit. Fight well, prepare fully, wear Christendom's finest armor still. One lucky spear thrust or arrow in the right spot, and you fall. A knight. Gear buys time, not certainty that night. Remove it slowly, reverently. Each strap undone, piece set aside, makes you smaller, lighter, vulnerable. Beneath it all, you're still just flesh-scarred, toughened, aching dot, and in those quiet moments sword across lap. Armor cooling on stand, you truly understand what being a knight means. You're not made of iron, you just wear it well. So every day begins with the familiar ritual. Lifting, buckling, adjusting, checking. Your squire tightens buckles, offers gauntlets, eyes for flaws, weaknesses. You nod silently and step once more into the shell of your profession. Because no matter how weary, how scarred your ribs, you're still needed to ride out, raise shield, stand between danger and those who can't. This life you've built plate by plate, blade by blade. This weight you chose, and you carry it well. You were told there's a code shining, lofty ideals to live by, called chivalry. The word itself seemed to gleam like morning light on polished armor. This, they said, defines a knight. Courage, courtesy, honor, protect the weak. Reverence for the church noble principles, written in beautiful script, praised from pulpits and by poets. Then you rode into your first battle, saw a fully heraldic-clad man trample a fleeing foot soldier under hoofond, realized the code is more guideline than rule. In theory, chivalry is a code of conduct, moral compass for sword-bearers, rooted in Christian values and feudal loyalty. It began as a way to measure violence. The church, ever worried about idle knights' destruction, tried turning you from hired blade to holy protector. You wouldn't just fight, you'd fight rightly. But in practice, chivalry is like a tapestry noble from afar, threadbare up close. Official rules vary by chronicler or cleric, but themes persist. Protect the innocent, guard the church, loyalty to Lord, mercy to surrendered foes, honesty, avoid unjust war. Honor women, especially highborn. A fine list, admirable and inconvenient. Because in battle's heat, no one pauses for ethics lessons. You swing, you survive. Follow orders, even to burn villages if disobedience is suspected. Take prisoners, yes, but mostly for ransom. Mercy has a market price. Honesty is encouraged. Unless deception serves your lord better. A knight may be honored in theory, but incredibly flexible over land or inheritance. Many lies delivered eloquently from horseback with conviction. Protecting the weak sounds poetic in songs, but on the field, the weak are often collateral. If your lord orders a peasant revolt crushed, you ride. If a common caravan stands in enemy grain, you don't detour, you ride through. The poor admire. Knights from distance, up close, their lot rarely improves. And women. Songs speak of courtly love, poetic torment of gallant for unattainable lady. In reality, your relations with women are shaped by property law, not poetry. Marriages political, romance fleeting if present. Protection given depends on class. A noble lady might receive honor, a laundress less. This doesn't mean all knights are dishonorable. Many try to live the code, Pray, tithe, avoid needless cruelty. But in your world, restraint isn't richly rewarded. The knight who hesitates to strike may not live to show mercy. The one who speaks plain truth may lose land or head in tournaments. Strangely, chivalry shines brightest in this staged play. Rules strict, honor real, salute opponents, show restraint, lose gracefully. Theater, yes, but one where actors believe the script. For a moment, the code feels alive, if brief. There are manuals, satchel, written guides detailing knightly behavior in florid detail. One says, don't strike a helmetless foe. Another, pick up a lady's dropped glove, but don't trample it or stare too long at her ankle. The church writes its O, emphasizing piety. Attend mass, confess sins, avoid gluttony, and never forget who granted your right to kill. These manuals are read aloud in courts and training halls. Some memorize, others nod politely and return to sword drills. In truth, the code is interpreted house by house. One lord stresses loyalty, another wants ferocity. A few take chivalry so seriously they disinherit sons for cowardice. Others, knight. Warren-seen boys for the right marriage, alliance. Over time, you learn chivalry isn't a sword to wield. It's a mirror. Some polish daily, others shatter when convenient. You try to honor the spirit, if not always the letter. Help a squire unseen. Spare a surrendered foe, though comrades laugh. Ride back into a burning village to pull a limping peasant out because his child begged at your feet, please. These moments stay with you more than most victories. They cost little, feel ancient, sacred. No bard will sing them. Chivalry, you discover, isn't grand gestures. It's small choices when no one's watching. Remaining human in a profession of destruction. Knowing you're a weapon, and sometimes choosing not to strike. Yet the tension never leaves. One day kneel before a bishop, the next torch granaries. Carry a wounded comrade, then trample a fleeing infantryman in your path. Sign oaths of honor and restraint, then orders sending hungry men to death. You begin to understand the code of chivalry isn't a shield, it's a compass. It doesn't prevent getting lost. Just gives something to check in fog. Some days, that's enough. In quiet times, you ponder the dissonance. The songs you once memorized told of knights, slaying monsters, rescuing maidens. Your life, tax disputes, bloody marshes, aching knees. You were promised glory, delivered logistics, yet you don't complain. Not fully. Because sometimes the code reminds you who you were meant to be before the world shaped you. You see knights who twist the code into a weapon, quote scripture while looting, preach honor while spreading terror. You learn to recognize them shiny crests, empty eyes, and learn to step aside, or rarely, stand in their way when chance allows. You're not perfect. You've broken the code. Struck surrendered men, taken unjust spoils, stayed silent when you should speak, but you remember those who tried. The knight who held a gate so a village could flee, who refused to burn a monastery despite exile, who died kneeling, not in surrender, but prayer so you keep trying in your way. Carry the code not in scripture, but habit, lifted each morning. Like your sword, knowing it may slip by evening, yet lifted because without it, you're just a killer. With it, perhaps, just perhaps, you're more. That's chivalry. What minstrels don't sing, priests don't preach what you try in a world, giving 1,000 reasons not to, so you ride on, still oath-bound. Protect your lord, fight his enemies, bury his dead, but feed your squire when pantry's empty. Speak gently to the old village woman who remembers you as a boy. Return a fallen glove unseen. You're a knight. And you remember the code, not because it makes you powerful, because it reminds you what power is for one day. Years later, a boy will ask what it means to be chivalrous. You won't recite texts or show crests. You'll hand him your sword and tell him to grip firmly. Then ask can he'll carry it without ever letting it fall on the wrong soul. You'll say it's a good place to start because in the end, chivalry isn't about purity. It's persistence, falling short again and again and rising, choosing quietly even when no one sees not to become what you once swore against. And with each choice, you hold your sword a little straighter. Years of training, carrying swords. Before wielding them, watching men die before charging. Polishing armor so often you smell vinegar and oil in dreams. But none truly prepares you for this. The moment trumpets sound, your horse shifts beneath, and the field ahead fills with enemy borders and banners. The battlefield is no stage, no arena of honor, no chessboard of strategy. It's a pulsing, moaning. Think chaos of mud, blood, and metal. You can recite ancient heroes, chivalry's code, war rules whispered by candlelight to bishops. Here, none matter. War begins long before fighting. Days, weeks of marching through rain, sleeplessness, sun. As army grows, air worsens. Body heat, manure, rotting rations a stench, turning stronger stomachs, blistered feet, snapped tempers. Comrades shift from jests to grumbling to silence. Men start smelling like horses. You two. Camp life brief and miserable. Tents flap like wet banners. Fires smoke more than warm. Eat what's their salted meat, hard bread, dried peas. Rarely more. Clean water rare. If found, wonder what's floating in it. Mornings, armor cold. Afternoons, baking. Sleep in boots, sword near. Then one morning, cresting a hill, you see them. Army arrayed across the field. Banners snapping, knights glinting in rising sun. This is it. Commanders shout, orders, relayed. Everyone nods. Few truly hear. Stomach knots. Check girth straps. Pray or pretend. Wonder how many dead by sunset. Then it begins. The charge isn't elegant. It's thunder hooves. Tear earth. Lances lower. Each heartbeat counts down to impact. You aim, weapon, and hope the man ahead is slower, more afraid. Impact bone-jarring. You strike or miss, are struck or not, fall or not. If fall, pray next wave doesn't crush you first. Noise never stops. Screams, roars, metal clash, horses whinnying, men groaning. No rhythm, just ferocity. You fight in flashes. Blade swings near head. You duck. One lunges. Your sword parries without thought. Axe hits shield. Shock felt in teeth. You don't think heroism? Think inches. Each foot gained perhaps last, each moment upright a small miracle, and always mud in boots, blood slick on hands, iron and ash, taste in air. No clean victory. Even surviving, you've likely killed face to face. Looked in eyes, seen. Fear felt last breath. No one teaches living with that. Sometimes footing slips. One blow drops you. Visor loosens. Worlds suddenly blur of hooves and blades overhead. You flail, crawl, rise. Armor stuck in mud makes you overturn Turnell. Squire reaches in time to drag out. Otherwise, there are worse ways to die than forgotten. Glimpses of others. Knight unhorsed, peasant speared, fallen banner. Familiar faces, friends. Comrades, gone in instant, replaced by another swinging sword. No time to grieve, only breathe and swing again. Sometimes lines break into chaos, orders meaningless, formations dissolve. Find yourself beside strangers, mistake foe for friend, and reverse. Then battlefield shows true face, not clash of nations or ideal survival storm. If survive, it doesn't end with trumpets, but exhaustion. Hands ache, ears ring. Horse, if alive, foams and trembles. You stumble back to camp, fumble armor off with shaking hands, stare at bloodied gloves. Hope it's not yours. Not sure. Later, walk the field. Crows already gathering. Men moan, we're fallen, too wounded to move. Try to help, but to many. Give water to one. Whisper prayer for another. Finish some because it's mercy. Boots soak in blood. No longer notice smell. Looters already at work. Rings, purses, boots from dead even teeth sometimes. Dishonorable. Yes, but practical. Or expensive. One fallen knight's sword might buy someone's winter grain. You look away. Don't stop them. Find surviving comrades sit by dying fire, each silent. Some clean wounds, some stare. No boasting, no drinking. Everyone knows. Those who laugh after battle cry when fever comes. No celebration, just accounting. How many lost? How many banners taken? How many horses replaced? How many squires didn't return? In following weeks, story cleaned up. Minstrels compose songs of noble charges, glorious stands. Lord gives speeches. Priests proclaim holy victory. On return, you're paraded through roads, flowers thrown, children cheer. You wave, smile, nod, but remember, fields smell, eyes of man you speared. Friends scream beside broken shield. Don't forget, this is the brutal battlefield. Not the gleaming armor and heroic charges of legend, but the real one. Mud-soaked, terrifying, chaotic, confusing. Where honor is a luxury, mercy rare, and survival a skill. You are no longer just a knight. You are a soldier, a veteran. And though you'll still ride out, polish armor, trained squire's part of you remains forever on that nameless field, under grey skies, with a bloodied sword and breath fogging your visor. That part never truly leaves. You don't want to talk about it. When new squires ask what really happened, you teach stance, technique, footwork. You don't speak the words, not the trembling hands. Not out of shame, because words can't capture it, and because part of you fears they might still want it anyway. but you prepare them all the same. Even when weary, you teach them to keep the shield raised, to watch the ground underfoot, to check the greave straps twice, not once. These small details save lives. You've seen the price of forgetting. Over time, your own scars fade. On the surface, at least. Beneath, they linger not as wounds, but memories. You remember the weight of a fallen knight, dragged from a crushed ditch, the breathless silence before a charge, how the field felt afterward broken, wrong, yet you ride on because someone must, because war never truly ends. It only sleeps between battles. You no longer seek glory, you seek clarity, survival, and as much as you can, you try to bring the men beside you home. That's what fighting means. Not for banners, not for poems, for the man on your left and the one on your right, for that squire who still believes the songs, for the prayer you whisper even when you don't believe. You were forged in iron, but tempered on the field. This is the brutal battlefield, and you endured it. By enduring, you learned the cost of every inch of ground measured, not in feet, but in lives. You survive one war, then another. And though war never truly ends, it quiets for a time. Armies disperse, swords are sheathed, banners lowered. There is peace for a while. But a night without war is like a weapon left idle. And idle weapons rust. So you turn to the next best thing, tournaments. No killing, certainly no slaughter, though it can come close. This is staged war, dressed in heraldry, spectacle, and profit. Where war is chaos, tournament is choreography. War builds legends. Tournaments build celebrities. It begins with invitations. If your name carries weight, or your lord has deep enough pockets, you're summoned to a list field near a bustling town, where banners fly high as the entry fees. You arrive with your squire, armor dazzlingly polished, horse groomed and caparisoned like a bride's hair on her wedding day. The field is prepared days in advance. Wooden stands rise over the grass. Merchants set up stalls, selling meat pies and wager tokens. Minstrels rehearse songs, hoping for tips just before the start. Children dart between tents, shouting the names of favorite knights. Yours might be among them if your last performance was bloody enough. But make no mistake, this is no gentle game. Tournaments are as dangerous as the battlefield, just with more light and politer announcements. There are two main events, the melee and the joust. The melee is a grand mock battle. Dozens of knights on foot or mounted charge each other across an open field. It's said to mimic real war, though it follows real war's rules very little. The goal is to capture weapons, unhorse opponents, or force surrender without killing if possible. Not from mercy, but because corpses pay no ransom. You enter the field with your team, shield blazing your device, heart pounding behind the breastplate. The horn sounds, the crowd roars. You lower your visor and plunge in. The fighting feels real. Enough. Blades are blunted, yes, but far from harmless. Bones break, teeth fly. Pride is always at risk. You strike, are struck, fall, rise. Amid the din, your name is shouted, somewhere in triumph or concern. Sometimes both. The melee ends when only a few remain standing, or when judges decide it's grown too undignified. You'd limp off the field exhilarated, exhausted, or occasionally unconscious. Do well, and your reputation grows. Do poorly, pretend you don't care, and quietly check your wounds. Then comes the joust, the jewel of the tournament. One knight, one lance, one pass. A tilt rail separates you from your opponent, and you thunder toward, each odder ramming to shatter lances on shield, helmet, or chest. Points are awarded, helmets dent, ribs sometimes break. More than one knight has died under the crowd's applause. This has spectacle, pomp like a wedding. Your name is heralded, trumpets blare. A lady ties a ribbon to your lance. You bow to the stands, salute your opponent, and take position at the tilt yard's end. Then the flag drops, and all pageantry vanishes into the thunder of hooves as your world narrows to the lance tip and the target ahead. A clean hit rings like thunder. Splinters fly. The crowd cheers. If unhorsed, you crash to earth and lie long enough to remember there's no chivalry in mud. Victory brings prize money. More importantly, notoriety. Lords watch from stands, seeking talent, potential, or marriageable. Reputation. Impress the right one, and fortune can change overnight. Build a name, and invitations come for grander circuit sparrows. London, Rome, or so the stories say. But not all jousts are equal. Some are friendly, honorable, carefully judged. Others bloody, corrupt. Whispers say knights, bribe marshals, sabotage armor, or swap blunted tips for sharp. Old rivalries flare. Insults answered in steel. Then the injuries. Dislocated shoulders, crushed wrists, concussions. You quickly learn to check your ears still work before removing the helmet. Spectators aren't always safe either. Once, are splintered. Lance flew into the stands and took a merchant's eye. He still comes every year to watch with the other. Outside the arena, the tournament is a fair. Merchants sell everything relics to roasted chestnuts. Scribes sit composing V's for sale. Apprentices wrestle with sticks in the mud, mimicking your name. At night, fires burn, ale flows. Minstrels sing exaggerating every blow and favor. If you took a few wounds, at least a few lines might bear your name. Nobles host feasts. You attend scrubbed clean, squeezed into a doublet, feels like punishment. Bow, drink, endure conversation. A lady might ask about your technique, though her interest lies more in inheritance or scandal or both. Tournaments are politics too. Alliances form, rivalries ignite. Lords wager quietly behind goblets. Victory on the field can bring treaties, vassalage, or sudden betrothals. Defeat lingers long after ribs heal. For all the shine, tournaments are expensive. Entry fees, armor repairs, horse care, tents, bribes. All told, a bad season can leave you poorer than before. Some take loans. Some sell land. A few turn darker. Gambling, extortion, even match fixing. Yet you return. Always return. Because there's a thrill, a pulse nothing else matches. Because the crowd remembers your name. Because one good tournament win does what 5 years of border. Patrol cannot. It elevates you, proclaims you, makes you visible. And in a world where power depends on perception, visibility is everything. You enter, fight, bleed, bow, and smile through cracked lips if you win. Because for one fleeting moment, you're no longer Iron's servant. You're the main event. You're not at war, but you're fighting. This is the tournament circuit, and you're still standing at week's end. Your body is a ledger, bruises, cuts, humiliations. Your squire works late restoring gear. You spend evenings nursing thin wine, pretending your shoulder doesn't ache. With every breath, a blackened eye makes you dashing at supper. Limping adds character. You don't speak of fear. The pounding before the lance lowers. The moment you wonder if the next hit will be clean or final, you swallow it, bury it under iron and bravado. Every knight does. Fear is common. Admitting it is not. If the tournament favors you, you leave with coin, a new favor tied to saddle. Invitations to the next. Otherwise, empty-handed and fully regretful, ready calculating how many more it'll take to recover what glory cost. The ride home is quieter, less triumphant. A few companions ride alone. One coughs blood, another cradles a mangled hand that may never grip lance again. Squires chatter, still enchanted by the show. They don't yet understand the price of applause, and so, battered but unbroken, you return to your estate or garrison where real duty waits. But for 1 week, you were more than soldier. You were spectacle. You were legend. You'll do it again. Because war may build your name, but tournaments write it in gold. And sometimes, that's enough. Because in the crowd's eyes, you're not just a knight. You're a name, a banner, a force in motion. And for one shining moment, everyone saw you gleam. Trumpets fade. Tournaments end. Battlefields fall silent. And you'll return not to rest, but to something more complex. Duty. Because you're not just a knight. You're a vassal to your lord. Owner of land, enforcer of law and order. And your domain, large or small, demands no less than joust or skirmish. Your estate, whatever its size, is a patchwork of thatched roofs, pasture, and stubborn people. Often granted as reward for service, it comes with countless obligations not to the land, but to those who work it. They don't know you as charging warrior or lance-bearer. They know you as the man who demands harvest in October, sends bailiffs to settle disputes, and occasionally ride through the village just to remind who owns whom. Your mornings begin not with sword drill, but ledgers. The steward recites figures, bushels harvested, taxes collected, debts outstanding. You nod as if understanding, though half the time you don't. There's always a shortfall, a missing pig, ruined crop, someone dead owing money. Solutions usually mean more paperwork and fewer pigs. Then come the petitioners. Peasants queue in your hall with complaints. He stole my duck. His cow trampled my barley. Their boy struck mine with a stick. You sit beneath your banner, listening wearily enough that facing arrows feels preferable. Justice must be swift, at least loud. You nod, impose fines, send men to check fences. Villagers leave, mostly satisfied. You hope. Disputes among peasants are one thing, among your armed retainers, another. When two men-at-arms quarrel over boundaries or livestock, swords rattle. You must intervene, not as fellow knight, but as master. Firm, impartial, authoritative. A fine balance between showing strength and not inflaming anger. You manage most times, then tax collection. Grain, wool, coin, or kind. Tallied, stored, sent upward to your lord. Some you keep for wages, household. Some vanishes into clerk's hands, never seen again. You suspect some funds the bishop's wine cellar or your lord's new embroidery. But questioning feudal economics is like questioning gravity. You nod, sign, dispatch the ox carts, then inspections. Ride slowly through your fields, rows of barley and flax. Speak with the reeve, the village overseer who reports labor shortages. And grumbling. You pretend not to hear mutters from behind hedges about rents, levies, your new scabbard surely costing more than a plough. You smile, nod, ride on. Respect maintained by distance, not love. You must keep your hall staffed, guarded, garrison. Drilled, walls repaired. Steward reminded the granary smells odd again. Oversee smith, cooper, cook. Approve millstone repairs, arrange winter wood. Host quarterly feasts for local tenants to pretend happiness and loyalty mutual. You arrange marriages, approve apprenticeships, and occasionally punish. A thief might lose fingers, oppose your pay in coin or labor. There's a gallows, but you use it rarely. It works better as symbol. Still, when needed, remind the village what defying law costs. The church is ever present. A priest lives on your estate. You fund. His chapel's upkeep will risk your name in some sermon. You attend mass, confess sins with vague remorse. Donate what conveniently matches recent misdeeds. Piety easier in coin than conduct. Your household wants managing too. Servants oscillate between loyalty, incompetence, mild rebellion. The cook rages over flour quality. Stable boy swears hey shipman late again. A chambermaid scandalously friendly with a visiting knight. You pretend not to notice him till child or worse. Gossip. Your squire still needs training, always. He forgets saddle straps, leaves sword anoiled in rain. Once polished your boots with grease. You scold, drill, threaten monastery, then end day praising effort with a nod. It's what the boy truly wants. Your wife, if you have one, runs her own. Demand kitchen servants, accounts, sharper than your sword, twice as terrifying when angry. She reminds when wrens do, when to right your cousin's widow. That priest caught you sleeping at mass again. You learn to listen, and learn not to advise next feast's menu without asking. 3 days quarrel over table linen follows. In famine, your role reluctant judge and reluctant beggar. Petition Lord for aid, ration what remains. You know starving peasants weaken the manor. Dead ones plough no fields. So give just enough, they work. Just little enough no envy turns to revolt. In plenty, you're generous, but visibly, bread at chapel. Door, coins scattered on holy days. Not charity. Theatre maintains order. Peasants call you my lord, but you're unsure if respect, resentment, or resignation. Likely all three. They bow deeply, but you catch judgment in eye corners. You ride. Past, saddle heavy, armor gleaming. Their protector, their tax, their judge, and sometimes executioner. Sometimes you host visiting knights or minor nobles. These visits equal parts hospitality, hostage negotiation. Appear wealthy but not wasteful, powerful but not threatening. One wrong word on king's taxes marks you disloyal. Badly cooked pigeon offends guests, cousin, who happens in earl. You walk knife edge of courtesy, pomp, performance. But it's not all caution and rule. Quiet moments exist. Ride alone at dawn through duet fields, nod to shepherds up before. You sit by winter hall fire, hearing stewards grumbling accounts, logs crackling behind. Share ale with sergeants at arms. Both old enough to admit back pain more than before. You're lord of your manor, but it's prisoner too. Can't be absent long. Bandits raid. Crops rot. Cousin claims title. Court visits like leaving child alone. Return always finds something broken. Gate, agreement, fence, nose. Yet there's pride. Not in power, but shaping. You've kept this place standing. Fed 100 mouths. Settled quarrels before blades. Remembered names. Attended baptisms, funerals, harvest dances. Knelt at deathbeds. Signed marriage contracts. You're woven into land's rhythm, its heartbeat. This is the knight's other life. Not glory, not blood governance. And though minstrels won't sing it or stone carve it, you know truth. A knight's sword protects his name, but his estate keeps it alive. Because in end, when sword sheathed and war drums silent, victories don't remain. Land does, people do, and fragile peace you've stitched decision by decision. When hall quiets, ledgers close, sword returns to rack yours, is the less discussed. Less romantic thing your private life. You'd think after tournaments, campaigns, estate worked, you'd sink into dreamless sleep each night. Wrong. Rest elusive. Comfort occasional. Truth is sleep, a luxury in night's world, often negotiated. You'll bed no feather heaven of later centuries. Wooden frames, stuffed straw or wool, linen covered with faint dust and wear smell. Shared with wife perhaps, or alone, or sometimes strewn. Armor drying metal, ticking softly, cooling. You don't sleep full nights. It doesn't work that way. Sleep in fragments broken by prayers, watches, old wounds aching when fire burns low. Some nights called to settle Berwick's quarrel. Others just were creepling bad tilt or wondering if steward lied again about granary. But not all dark. Laughter exists, warmth not from fire. Your hall, not just court. It's your hall, theatre. Lounge, minstrels sing by fire. A passing bard might recite distant war or lovesick prince. You know endings. Enjoy anyway. Familiarity, its own comfort. Games played. Dice, chess, backgammon. You cheat, sometimes unseen, or lose loudly, blaming firelight. Drink, suspicious table angle. Companions groan, laugh, pour more wine. Feasts when held noisy grand, not royal, but loud with sound. Roast meat, ale spilling on floor rushes, laughter echoing rafters. You sit high table, but not distant from hall. Drink with men, toast squire, toss bones to dogs under bench. A juggler might perform, or fool. Jest slightly veiled about local priest or visiting noble. You laugh louder than needed to show guests. Yes, you take jokes. Fragile peace maintained on roast pig and stale bread. Some evenings softer. A servant plays lute. Your wife embroiders, humming half-remembered him. You doze in fireside chair, startling awake only when log collapses. For a moment, all still. Household rises before dawn, retires early. Squire lingers, hoping praise or advice or unwilling return to straw near armory. You dismiss gently. He deserves rest, even if you don't. You might prowl Manor at night. Old campaign havret. Check locks. Peer shadows. Listen for wrong. Expect nothing. But sometimes just want move. Feel floored under boots. Remind you're here. Fire burns. Walls still yours. Storms make sleep near impossible. Wind howls. Shutters. Beams. Creech, you remember? Campaign, night shelter, only cloak and horse flank. Remind yourself this better. Almost believe. Private life means private thoughts. Harder managed than field or squire. You wonder if land truly yours or held until richer. Man wants. Recall faces killed. Some remembered, some not. Think of father, did he feel same pull between duty and doubt? Good night, you write, or try. Expanses on parchment or stiff formal letters to fellow lords. Sometimes attempt poetry. Terrible. But steward pretends otherwise. Wife hides worst. Before guests see. Guests arrive. Private life vanishes. All performance. Hall cleaned. Best wine out. Smile twice at same jest. Endure taller hawk tailies. Faster horse stories than your stables. Nod. Flatter. Endure. But when gone, doors shut, boot sounds, fade you grant. Rarest luxury silence. Sit by fire. Let cup cool in hand. Silence spread. No war plans, no tax collection, just log crackle and your breath in dark. Your body map of scars. You know which shoulder stiffens, cold, which rib aches rain, broken finger from Kent term and tie mark, from border skirmish. These pains familiar, greet like old companions. Learnt, not complain. Everyone aches. Squire once asked if you ever sleep well. You smiled. Said yes, sometimes when fire low and dogs not snoring. Of course lie, but kind one. And dreams, convivid, strange, stubborn. Sometimes back in battle, reaching sword not there. Sometimes walk, childhood hall, walls. Crumbling, no one calls name. Once dreamed flying over fields, rivers, manor. Woke, smiling once. Not every moment grand, most not. Mud-tracked hall, loose floorboard catching boot, spilled buckets, burnt bread, night cough, jerking awake until stops. These life's details, these fill time between sword and steel. Holy days, private life, public, a kind of dance. You watch more, join less, but sometimes pulled into circle, stamping ancient song older than church. You shuffle awkwardly, laugh, own footwork, wife laughs harder, servants laugh, moment. You give gifts, bread, cheese, sometimes coin. Children chase yar, old sit-son pretending knees not ache. One afternoon, no taxes demanded, no judgments, no calls. You watch not lord, not knight, just man, quietly grateful. Your dog rests, head on boot. You scratch behind the ear, let. shoulder sag, tired, but not wars tired, deeper ache. From carrying not weapons, people, place, purpose, yet you do it because rhythm exists. Amid duty's strange, stubborn peace, not ease, not simple, but close meaning, this night's private life, harder conquer than war. Because chronicles write wars and banners, but these quiet hours, half-forgotten songs, unfinished letters, sleeping, halls silence these truly say who you were. You rise at dawn, aches in pairs, cold deeper than before. Steward nods greeting. Squire follows, quieter than past years. At first nothing unusual until step outside and sense change. Not air or weatherworld's rhythm. Fewer hoofbeats road, fewer raised hands, respect. Banners still fly, but lower. Your role, once essential, now ceremonial. You still ride out, don armor, train Boise's, still fire. But they look past you to engineers sketching strange machines. Captains drilling ranks with pike and gunpowder. Future no longer arrives on warhorse first. Time see musket volley in anger feels wrong. No grandeur, no dance, no splendor, just smoke, thud, man falling. You watch from hill with others, say nothing. Still clean sword later. Habit perhaps, or protest. Lord, once summoning you, every border storm, now sends winter greetings only. Once grain accounts, tax lists, tenant comings, goings. Wars still happen, but led by mapmen, not melee. Your presence, formality. Advice, polite tradition. At court great knights, gather less. Old names memorized as Squire no longer spoken. Survivors arrive slowly, crests dimmer. You nod, no words. No one says aloud what all know. Your armor, once polished weekly, now dusts between uses. Squire still oils more reverence than need. Now heavy, not weight, memory. Each dent tells skirmish, each rivet day of life fading into legend. You still wear sometimes ceremonies, parades. Once boy asked if Rillel, you no longer correct. When called old fashion. Pomp remains, though cracking. Holy days quieter, fewer nobles come. Fewer heralds shout names loud. Songs still praise nights, days, but always past tense. You listen, nod, raise cup. Smile when look your way online in old days when privately walk estate fields watching tenants work. They plough new tools now. Some carry king's coin, some paper permits, receipts, even letters. When literacy reaches soil, smith's son wants clerk, miller's daughter speaks school. Good things, tell yourself, but whisper follows. You're no longer what boys want be. You still train them, swing sword, but harder now. Cold stiffened shoulder, mounting shortens. Breath, blade feels longer, though not. Grown more rising. And Squire, grown, looks as you once looked, master. Half respect, half readiness. Even wars summon you feel different. No longer front charge. Asked watch, advise. Roll knowledge, not action. Though accept honor, part you still wants gallop, shake. Earth under hooves. You understand now age, of night's ending, not roar, but sigh by sigh. Gunpowder respects no bloodline. Formations care nothing honor. Knights charge, once inspiring fear and awe, now target for cannon and musket. You've seen, counted bodies. You try not resent. Every age ends eventually. Romans thought roads eternal. Ancient emperors believed names outlast stone. Now those stones farm walls and chapels. Time grinds all tradition into something more useful. Yet, sorrow exists. Quiet, stubborn. Feel when sword no longer wonder, but curiosity. When banner known not victories, but years flown. When warhorse dies and stable boy asks replace mule. More practical, he says. You tell yourself, lucky, survived, saw orders best and worst. Gained land, name, high table seat, came home. Not all. Did Dot sometimes ride long road past old battlefield? Now farmland? Peaceful, tree clump where archers stood? Slope where cavalry gathered? Dismount, walk, boots sink, soft earth, memorial, stone weather-worn, leaning. No one remembers carved names. You do. Night's dreams come more. Not always nightmares, though some but vivid flashes thought long buried. Lance shatter, comrade laugh, exact sky shade over foreign field. Wake, cold wondering why memory's sharper than blade. You write more, now not orders or reports, thoughts. Try capture how felt. Armor wait before dawn. Tension before tilt. Fields smell after rain. Want record what knighthood was in truth, not legend. Don't know for whom. Perhaps Boyer finds chess someday. Perhaps no one. Guests still come. Ask questions. Glorious. Honorable. You answer carefully some days, yes. But also cold, noisy, lonely. Say knighthood was service. To lord, to land, to ideals. And sometimes, when Windright felt larger, you walk with staff now. Squire, fully grown, walks beside, trying not look concerned. He calls you sir. You still allow. Costs nothing. Reminds of an age. Ends. You're still its echo. One evening, give him sword. Not ceremony, quietly. He takes two hands, eyes wide. Says, no thanks, no need. And so you fade, not shame, but rhythm. Hall quieter, hall fire lower, duties fewer, land continues, people work. And in seasons quiet you feel something like peace. Let bards sing dragons and jewels. Painters depict gleaming chargers and golden spurs. You remember cold mornings, crooked smiles, broken ribs and broken jests, wet horse smell, cheap ale taste. That was knighthood too. And it was enough. You don't know world's future, only it will come. Castles fall, Canaan roar. Old ways fold into new books, new rules, new uniforms. But perhaps some chapel or court tapestry hangs and Child Point's corner figure asks, who? That. And perhaps, just perhaps, someone remembers. Not war, not Banner the man. And that, in the end, is victory.